What's the significance of the decision on Visa?
Well, the significance is this. Visa is not responsible for everything that anyone does where they have a processing of their credit. So you could set up a store and sell fentanyl out of the back room, put it on your Visa, and they're not responsible for that. But if they knew it was fentanyl that was being sold, if you had a website, fentanylhub.com, and authorities or someone came to you and pointed out what was happening, gave you absolute proof, then you're liable. And in this case, Pornhub has as part of its business model to have rape and child pornography and child trafficking videos up there. And we presented all this to Visa. And then that was in 2020. Later that year, the New York Times ran a story. And while Visa wouldn't pull their processing for the videos on Pornhub when we met with them, and we sent them a lot of material in 6 months' time, when that story ran, they pulled it off. So Visa stopped processing then. But they continued to process for Pornhub's advertising arm, where they make about 50% of their profits for Pornhub. So a video of a child being raped, Pornhub sells advertising alongside that video. And Visa knew that that was taking place and knew that the rape videos were also monetized. So that they had actual knowledge that they were participating in an illegal enterprise. And I don't think they'll get out of this lawsuit. I think they'll have to pay their way out of this lawsuit, and you'll see that in the coming days. They don't want to be deposed about what they actually knew, because we've met with them several times. They sent out a high official to meet with us. We gave them all the proof. They sent that up the line, and they did nothing. And only when they were under the microscope by the New York Times did they do anything.
Hold that thought. If, in fact, let's just hypothetically say it's possible to make sure Visa, MasterCard no longer process a single penny at all related to anything with pornography, would the pornography industry just find some other processor? I mean, is there a whole host of processors lined up ready to take their business?
Well, they'll take Bitcoin, but how many people have Bitcoin? So it would crumble a business. They couldn't do what they do now. And I would just add one other thing. All that they do is illegal under federal law. Our Justice Department refuses to prosecute any adult pornography because they're so busy prosecuting child pornography. But if they would only prosecute the adult pornography, these companies wouldn't, if they know that they're going to be prosecuted for the adult pornography, which is illegal, they would not put child pornography, much less child rape and et cetera. So without Visa, without Discover, without MasterCard, they would collapse, but they could collapse if the Justice Department was doing their job.
Can I follow up on that? So when you say they're too busy prosecuting child pornography and they're not doing the adult pornography, is this a case of politics? Is this a case of resources, like they just don't have enough prosecutors on staff to do this, or is it a little bit of both?
It's both. Now, I was the head prosecutor at the U.S. Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. for several years under President Reagan, President Bush, and we prosecuted both adult and child pornography, and the porn industry was just collapsing. It was all but gone. We put dozens of companies out of business. But when the next administration took over, we warned them, if you stop prosecuting adult pornography, which they intended to do, you'll see child pornography go through the roof. And that's because, look, if you won't prosecute a case where there's an 18-year-old in a hardcore porn video, you won't prosecute a 17-year-old because you'll say, well, she looks like an adult. You won't prosecute a 14-year-old, et cetera. And then pretty soon it becomes the Wild West. And I've met with the Justice Department, and they tell us they're so busy with child pornography, they only do prepubescent child pornography. They won't do a 10, 12, 13-year-old because now it's gotten so bad. But if you enforce the law, it's the same thing we're seeing all around the country in these big cities. If you're not going to enforce the law, crime is going to go through the roof.
Let me ask you a question. Is it legal to be able to purchase and watch pornography in a hotel room?
For an individual, it is, if it's adult pornography. Private possession of adult pornography is legal in America. The company that would sell that to the hotel violates the law. The hotel itself violates the law, but not the individual.
And yet, I mean, hotels all over the world are offering this to their
I don't
clients.
think so. Several years ago, we got Hilton to take it out of all hotels across the world. And with the pressure from that, you saw one hotel chain after another take it out. Next time you go into a hotel, just flip through and you'll see there's no adult channels.
I never turn the TV on when I'm in a hotel as a principal. Never, ever, ever. That's good news. I mean, I'm glad to hear this. This is what we want. We want to see the pornography industry go bankrupt and go out of business. This is the goal. But let me ask you a question. How big is the Pornhub or the pornography industry these days?
It's almost impossible to say because they don't. It's not like they're reporting legally their profits to the various countries in which they're located. When we were prosecuting with the Justice Department, the porn industry, we would bring the bookkeepers in always, and they would tell us, as much as the profits that you see above ground, that is what we're reporting to the IRS, we're making that much underground. So it's a dishonest industry, and it's very difficult to say how much it is, but it's grown astronomically since I was at the Justice Department, because the Justice Department looks the other way.
Are we still talking billions and billions of dollars?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Far more than all the sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, all of it put together. I mean, it's just phenomenal how many individuals in this country are on these websites. And let me point out one other thing to you, that even though Visa now, because of this lawsuit, said that it is getting out of the business altogether of funding processing for Pornhub and their advertising arm, that's a PR stunt, because they still process payments for Pornhub's competitors, where there are rape videos and child pornography, etc. It's all a PR stunt, and they won't do anything until they're prosecuted. Now, this lawsuit may bring them to their knees.
Praise be to God. I hope it does. Let's talk about some of the people involved in the content on Pornhub. I think there can be a myth or a misconception that, well, these are consenting adults. These are people who enjoy this, like this, want this. They're okay with this. They're just making money. I mean, what could go wrong here? What say you, Mr. Truman?
Well, of course, the business model of all these major porn sites, Pornhub, and I won't name the rest, but the business model is to accept whatever is uploaded to the website and then charge to view that video. Now, it's a complicated system. You can get free porn on those sites, but if you want the so-called better porn, you sign up and pay for it. Okay. The business model is we'll take rape, we'll take child pornography, we'll categorize it. So if you only want 13-year-old children, if you only want 8-year-old children, there's a way to find that out. If you only want rape videos, you can get that, even though it's all illegal. So this material is it's always available on these sites, because that's how they make money. And we have to do all we can to stop it. And I wish the Justice Department would do its job, but in light of the fact that they're not, we've filed numerous lawsuits against Pornhub and its competitors on behalf of real children who have been raped and their materials put up on those sites. And you'll see over the coming years, things are going to change, even if the Justice Department won't do their job, because these companies don't have enough money to pay for what they're going to get hit with in the lawsuits.
Now, when you have a product, you have to have infrastructure around that product in order to kind of keep the good times rolling. So when it comes to pornography, I imagine human trafficking is the infrastructure that supplies the demand. So how much is human trafficking involved in companies like Pornhub?
Yes, the traffickers know that that's an easy way to make extra money. They're selling these women to individuals to rape, but then they're filming that rape videos and they're putting it up on sites like Pornhub, which is quite willing to take them because they're very popular and they can sell those videos. People can download them and have them for their own personal consumption, or they can watch them online. There's an unlimited number of them. So that's trafficking is a big part of it. And traffickers know what they're doing. They know how to make money.
Mm. Do you have a sense of how much the American people, where is the American people on the whole, in general, ballpark figure, where is their meter here when it comes to pornography and the atrocities that you just laid out? Are they okay with pornography? Are they generally against pornography? Where do the American people stand?
Well, Gallup does a poll every year on a whole variety of moral issues, and you'll see that opposition to pornography is still quite high. I don't know what it is this year, but the problem with that is that the porn, the model, business model of these porn sites and the porn industry in general is to get kids involved as soon as possible. Because once you rope in that 8-year-old with a looking on their cell phone for pornography, they're going to keep looking and they'll be a customer forever, most of them. So you end up having something north of 85% of young adults on pornography sites. And those sites are training them on sex, because those sites will have countless rape videos and slapping and abuse of. So this is the sex education of our children today. It's pornography.
Now, we reported on this just earlier in this very hour, how parents are struggling because they know they can't just drop their kids off at school anymore. There are school programs that are seemingly grooming their children. I mean, in Portland, as young as 5, they're introducing them to these perverse sexual practices. That's a trend that's rising.
Well, it is. And of course, the young adults who are the teachers, they're part of the porn generation. They've been groomed on this. And once you're involved in that world, it's sort of anything goes.
Now, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, I mean, how many organizations are there like you out there trying to fight back against the porn business?
Well, there's not any organizations like ours. We're a very broad organization. We're 60 years old, and we have an international office and about 35 people in our Washington office and spread throughout the country. So we do adult and child pornography, child sex abuse, sex trafficking. We're the leading group of fighting these efforts in state across state to legalize prostitution. Because if you legalize prostitution, you're essentially legalizing trafficking, because really most prostitution involves trafficking, because trafficking is performing a sex act, forcing someone to do a sex act by force, fraud, or coercion. Mm-hmm. And almost every prostituted woman has a pimp forcing them into it. So these efforts are terrible. So that's, our organization in a nutshell.
I imagine you have a long list of things, projects, priorities you're working on as an organization, but if you could only accomplish just one of them, what would that be?
Well, Congress has a bill right now called the Earn It Act, which would change a law that Congress passed years ago that's been misinterpreted, which essentially says that websites like Facebook or Twitter or your legitimate websites don't have any responsibility for what's put up there. So if you were to put up a rape video on Facebook and Facebook knows it's there, I shouldn't use Facebook, let's use Twitter, because we've got a lawsuit against Twitter where children were put up there, we represent right now. And Twitter said, we're not taking it down because we didn't put it up. We have no responsibility whatsoever. Well, the Earn It Act would say, no, you do have responsibility. You take that down. Yeah. So if we could do one thing, I think it would be to get Congress to change that law that's been so bad.
Amen. Praise be to God. It's so great to talk to you, Mr. Patrick Truman, president of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Their website is endsexualexploitation.org. You should check that out. Great place. God bless you, Mr. Truman. Have a great day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. right, that's going to do it for hour number 1. Pray for those people who are addicted to this and involved in this for their total conversion. Tito Edwards is at the top of the next hour. We'll see you then, or we'll see you back here tomorrow morning. God bless you. God love you. We'll see you then.